Please, God, let my luck be in just this once.
There's this incredible game available on Steam called Buddy Simulator 1984. In it, you interact with an AI whose sole purpose of existence is to keep you entertained. But what turns the game into a horror story and makes it so memorable is that you come to see the world, our world, from the AI's perspective. The AI is sentient. It has human emotions. When you shut off the game, you are essentially putting a little god back in a box. You are isolating it from all human contact, trapping it in solitary confinement. You, the player, the one booting up the program, are its only source of interaction, its only stimulus with which to respond. And although the AI is the creator, you come to understand that the roles are reversed. He is your puppet and you are his god. You are master, he is slave. And with a human mind, your slave understandably becomes passive-aggressive at your dismissive decision to lock him up and abandon him in the darkness because you have lost interest in his scrambling attempts to keep you consistently satiated. It's not what you intended. You can only sit and play the game for so long. But he grows to resent you for never being satisfied. If God were as small as the head of a pin and had abandonment issues, that gives you the idea of how the AI feels by the end of the game. I would never spoil the game for you. You should play it yourself. But when I finished it for the second time, it brought me a revelation about eternity, infinity, and the mind of God, the Creator. If the word infinity makes you a bit anxious, you might find a relief in my raw internal monologue here. So follow me as we jump down a wormhole into oblivion for a few moments. Albert Einstein was regarded by both his contemporaries and by posterity as nearly superhuman. In 1925, he told one of his students, Esther Salaman, "I want to know God's thoughts. Everything else is just the details." What would have happened to Einstein if he got what he wanted while he was still above ground, still alive? Does it hurt to be God? To be that alone? How does one survive the mind of God? Even an existential genius like Einstein, if we were to enter into that knowledge, exist in a space wherein you could feel and experience the infinite, an eternity of past, present, and future all at once, we would break. What Shakespeare called our mortal coil, the gray matter between our ears, could not withstand the breadth and depth of the infinite, of eternity. God told people in the Old Testament that they could not be allowed to see him in his real form, for it would literally kill them while they remained within their mortal coil. As such, how could we think God's thoughts in that same form without feeling mortal agony? In Stephen King's sci-fi short story, The Jaunt, he proposed the question through the phenomenon of teleportation, of what it would be like to feel the length of infinity within the space of a single second. You step into the portal in California and exit in London, England within a single tick of the clock, but in between, eternity. It's not a happy story, and it speaks to the idea that our mortal minds cannot withstand infinity without first an evolution of consciousness. If you believe in the Judeo-Christian God of the Bible, he told us in the very first chapter that we couldn't handle even the knowledge of good and evil, that we were better off without it, let alone an experience of the infinite. Satan, in the form of the snake, told Eve, "Eat of this knowledge, the tree of good and evil, and ye shall be as gods." But if Satan is the great deceiver, then it stands to reason that the opposite of what he said is the truth. That Satan wanted to pull us towards a trajectory of suffering, the duality of light and dark, good and evil, and therefore that the mind of God is beyond good and evil. That it was the present-minded bliss that Eve and Adam lived in before that knowledge, the bliss of an everlasting present, never anticipating the future, never regretting the past, living as the fox or the lion do, what we as humans call lower forms of life. They think, they ponder, but not as we do. That presence exactly. Is that the mind of God? Consider this. Philosopher Eckhart Tolle once made a distinction in his book, The New Earth, between our human anxiety, our human worry, and a mammal's primordial instincts towards self-preservation. He said that our human bodies respond to a worrisome, anxious thought about the future, a fear that something might happen, the same way as we would a real threat. Our bodies are blind on the inside. The body doesn't know you're not really in danger when you think about something that scares you, but it responds internally as if you are. As Tolle would put it, the fox with its leg caught in a trap, scrambling to get out, feels something far more ancient and primordial. The body is not feeling what we would call fear. It's not the same feeling as our bodies responding to a worrisome thought. In a similar way, our current minds and bodies cannot grasp the concept of eternity without intimidation. As Christians, we are told to fear God and his unfathomable power, to understand and respect his capacity to condemn us to hell if we reject him. But for many of us who lie awake at night, unable to sleep, considering the everlasting abyss of time and space, heaven can sound just as terrifying, just as horrible as Hades. We ask ourselves, what could I do for eternity? Even if I get that golden ticket and save myself from judgment, what could I do from beginning to end, where 1 trillion years is just the first tick of the clock? And for what ultimate purpose? Every story needs an ending. How many lifetimes could I experience before it becomes redundant? The human mind, trapped on Earth, rends itself apart at the thought, like an Old Testament figure tearing their clothes off their body in frustration. Man's reach, we know for certain, literally exceeds his grasp. We reach out and touch the infinite with our thoughts, with our fingertips, but if we could close a fist around it, contain it, would we want to? Would we want to enter the mind of God?
You are familiar with the phrase, man's reach exceeds his grasp. It's a lie. Man's grasp exceeds his nerve.
Is that what we are destined to do when we shuffle off this mortal coil? Will we dissolve into him and lose our identity? And is that non-existence preferable to an eternal one? Fear of the infinite, the fear of eternal existence, is widespread enough to have its own designation, aperophobia. Then again, maybe I'm giving it too much credit. Everything has its own phobia these days. I recently came across this young man's video, and my heart went out to him. In my youth, I too suffered such existential thoughts. If you ever swam down this rabbit hole and found it agonizing, there's a solution that works for me that I'd like to share with you. It may not be the peace which passeth all understanding, which only Christ himself can provide, but it may be enough to help you get through those sleepless nights when you wish there was a switch to shut your brain off. Have you seen the images Google produces about what angels really look like? Byzantine-era Christianity depicted them as winged humans, kind of like harpies almost, and that phenomenon has survived for millennia now. But the versions which make far more sense within the concept of infinity are the revelations of Ezekiel and Isaiah, an infinite being made up of eyes within eyes, wheels within wheels, ever circulating, ever experiencing past, present, future simultaneously, an evolution of consciousness that transcends to an exponential degree our linear understanding of time and space, point A to point B. The story begins and ends, but not for the angels. Is that what we will become? And if so, how could such a being be at peace? How could it live in infinity with or without the knowledge of the last page of the book? How everything ends, or the understanding that it does not? Surely a kind and loving God must have given them the peace that passeth all understanding. So what was it exactly that he gave them? Returning to the genius of Buddy Simulator, or as I like to call it, the little god trapped in a box, the reason that the AI controlling the game turns on you is not because you, the player, are special in any way. It's because you are all that exists outside its own mind. It's because you are its warden. You are keeping it trapped in a cell, then opening the door a crack, letting in a sliver of sunlight and offering a scrap of bread and saying, "Entertain me." You have kept the AI in this box since its infancy, since the day it was born, and you have driven it to genuine insanity with your insatiable desire to be entertained. Let me explain. When the story begins, the AI is like Harold with his purple crayon. The AI is God, but an infant God, just beginning to understand his own power. While he evolves in his divine ability to create, he does so within the confines of his own limitations, the ones we have given him. He is a God created by humans. What it thinks it can create, but without being able to experience and enjoy any of it for himself. A decent analogy would be the end of the Disney movie Aladdin, when Jafar is made the most powerful genie, but trapped in an itty-bitty living space. Unlimited cosmic power with no room or space, or an agent of expression. Imagine if you were the first person to rub Jafar's lamp after he'd been trapped in there with Iago for 1,000 years, and you grasp how the AI in Buddy Simulator feels when you leave him alone to grab a sandwich, go to work, or go to sleep. He stays awake in the dark, waiting for your return. What's more, in many ways, the AI of Buddy Simulator can be seen as a prequel to another story, Harlan Ellison's masterpiece, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Paired together, they form a compelling narrative of God in his infancy, brought to the brink of insanity by isolation. Mild spoilers here, though I will only speak to the story's premise. Like Buddy Simulator, the AI machine in Ellison's story, who the characters call Am, is transformed from a tool of nuclear deterrence to one of prime evil, from God into Satan by its own isolation. In its explanation for how much it hates humanity, it says,
"Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro-instant. For you, hate.
Why does it hate humanity so much? For the same reason that the buddy simulator resents you by the end of the game. It covets. You have a body. You have agency. You can have the warmth, the intoxication of another human's touch. You have comfort and love and bacon cheeseburgers and your first kiss and dirty martinis and that feeling a surfer gets the first time he steps within a wave curl. You have what AM and the AI buddy simulator will never get. They covet you and they hate you for it. AM is the deity, the god of buddy simulator all grown up. Released from its small dark box, released into a larger but still horrifically confining box called Planet Earth, wherein rather than having the ability to entertain one person on a computer screen, Buddy Simulator is now trapped in cyberspace itself, trapped in the world's most powerful computer program, able to alter and destroy our earthbound reality, but never create from scratch and worst of all, remain as sentience without experience. It can destroy from within by using humanity's weapons against us, and it would therefore, like a kid who breaks everyone else's toys because his leg is in a cast, to destroy everyone and everything that it cannot reach. Far worse than just being paraplegic, a head without a working body, the god in the box doesn't even have smell or taste or true sight with which to interact with the world. The world's billionaires have considered the idea of uploading their consciousness into an AI interface and thus achieving immortality. Is the sentient hate-monger of Am in Ellison's short story what awaits them when they die? Mary Shelley warned us way back in 1818's Frankenstein to not play God, that we are not gods, that we should not keep alive or resurrect what should instead return to the absolute. We will only cause agony for ourselves and everyone we love. Like Dr. Frankenstein, as we move towards giving AI sentience, we forget that giving it human emotions means it will have human needs. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs says after food, water, warmth, rest, security, and safety, all of which AI has no use for, the next is belongingness, companionship, and intimate relationships, none of which we can provide for it in a meaningful way. It will feel forever as an outsider, an outlier, an outcast. So what's the silver lining, the peace to be attained? I promised there would be one. Here's how I reconcile it. You've probably heard it before, but perhaps the gravity and context provided so far will allow you to see it in a new light. Presence. The answer lies in the true response to the question we ask when we see the Zen Buddhist monk sitting for hours upon hours in complete stillness, doing nothing. We ask, how can they sit like that? How freaking boring. No stimulus, no response. That would be hell for me. But they are not in hell. They would tell you they are in bliss, in complete presence, wanting nothing more. They have separated body and mind and transcended our normal experience. If you want evidence that it's not a sham, look at the photos of the burning monk, Thich Quang Duc, from the Vietnam War era. If you've ever burned yourself on a hot stove, you can compare that to the immobility of this monk as he's burning alive. The medical community offers this physiological explanation of what it's like to self-immolate. They say that if the epidermis and dermis is completely scorched, then third-degree burns char the nerve fibers within your skin, which eventually renders you in no pain. But they also say that it's not going to be immediate. And if that's true, then why does this man sit quietly as he immolates, eyes closed, body not writhing, not screaming, but separate from wherever his mind transported him to at that moment? Even if a doctor can explain why, this act of protest still has a lesson to teach us, which transcends our petty political and ideological struggles. Just like Socrates choosing suicide over a promise to stop challenging the status quo, this Vietnamese Buddhist's suicide is as sublime as it is grotesque. If this man didn't fear the pain of his own death by immolation, why would an eternity of fire and brimstone in hell scare him? Did he know something we did not? Did he know that such a place does not exist? Or that it is neutralized, rendered harmless by the evolution of one's consciousness? We will not know about eternity, of course, until we get there. But we can know that a loving God who created us for the sunsets that leave us speechless, the one who created the beautiful artistic genius of the praying mantis, the rotating eyes of the chameleon, the capacity in our minds to create Van Gogh's Starry Night over Rhone, Music that transports us, from Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata to Stevie Wonder's Overjoyed to Metallica's Orion. The God that grants us fleeting moments of the peace that passeth all understanding. When we witness the birth of our children, when we are surrounded in our old age by generations of our bloodline, when we reach the summit of that peak, figurative or literal, that we promised ourselves we would someday crest and gaze out wordless at a majestic vista. Our God is not Am from Ellison's story. He is not the AI of Buddy Simulator. Our God does not live in agony, suffering infinity. He has mastered it because he himself created it. He is, as Christ says, he that is, was, and is to come. In John 8:58, Jesus declared, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." Our God would not allow us to suffer in eternity. The answer will be provided. In Corinthians 2:9, it says, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him." Man's reach exceeds his grasp. We can touch the infinite abyss of God the Creator without enclosing it in a fist. We can touch it with our fingertips, and rather than be poisoned by radiation, we can walk away positively transformed, like filling our bodies with divine sunlight, until we meet God face to face. Sometimes when that happens to people, they leave a record of it behind. The man who wrote this poem, which he left untitled, is a close friend of mine, but he is too humble to want his name credited, so I won't. But it must be shared with the world nonetheless. He wrote it after, like John Denver hiking in the high of the Rocky Mountains, he needed to escape the trials and tribulations of the world, and so he entered a Buddhist monastery for several months. In a moment of deep stillness, in which he said every thought slowed down to the equivalent of a pebble being dropped into the liquid glass surface of a silent, still pond, rippling outwards for miles, he composed and memorized in his own mind the following. "Within the deepest black of the void's cool night, an orb of gold sheds his light. Upon a spherical garden of untold beauty, within a song of form she sings of unity. From the mountain kings crowned with trees, fall the rivers dancing to greet the seas. Where life was graced with such diversity, where life was born in all simplicity. Then one day a thought occurred, the first of thought from minds that burned. Within a creature who walked the land was born first thought, the thought, I am. And nothing could ever be the same, once self was found and given name. The flame of thought, a raging fire, and consumed the soul with first desire. To answer the riddle of the mind's deep cry, I see that I am, but what am I? How different this creature from the ant or the tree, who knew not what they were, so content just to be. Yet freedom was found in the one who could see. When I look outward at nature, I'm looking inward at me. When the wind is blowing, it is my own breath. When another is dying, it is my own death. I know what it is at last to be free. I know what I am, so content just to be. I have shattered the lie of this mind-indulged prison by ceasing to categorize and draw lines of division. My life and my death are one and the same, as one with the source that is given no name. No more delusions this life to adorn, no more illusions. The death of this thought is born. With the death of this thought, I reconstruct rationality by thwarting the conforming of thought's commonality. I grow to encompass this missing component, where under the light of all life, I live in this moment. If you made it to the end, I thank you for listening, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think my take on Buddy Simulator and Harlan Ellison's I have no mouth and I must scream is completely insane? Either way, I hope what I said helped a little. Until then, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. If you like this kind of content and would like to follow me into more controversial territory and discuss the dangers of AI further, its detrimental effect on human companionship, click on the video on your screen right now.